Greetings, historians. Welcome to Lore of the Dragon, a prophecy that defined ages, one that spoke of dragons who would stamp their mark upon it, one I've delved into over the years. Its interpretations can be numerous, and even I have changed my own interpretation of it. However, there is still a mystery to be solved with it, one that few have delved into from my understanding. Who was its scribe? And how and when could the prophecy of the purple dragon have been brought into being? Let us delve into this and uncover the many possibilities buried deep in time. I have long spoken of this text, but over the years I've pondered many truths about it. I've spoken about it in detail, but alas, we come to a day where I myself am confronted with a strange predicament. My earlier work, once handed out and spread between friend and stranger, I believe has a flaw. Its interpretation of the prophecy lacks flexibility, and the thought that possibly the prophecy could have been made at a different time than what I assumed. Upon observing, there might never be solid evidence on exactly when the prophecy was made. However, I believe it should never be ruled out that it could have been made before or after Malefor, later on the Dark Master. This, however, when clarified, leaves time to ponder other questions. Who was the prophecy's creator? Time and the ability to pierce its veil is a funny thing within this universe, as individuals from the chroniclers, sort of keepers of history and time, or strangely dragons can have the ability to see what has, is, and on rare occasion, will come. Because of the nature of the prophecy that it foretells something to come, it must be ascertained what or who could possess such an ability. Once that has been done, then we may begin our journey to uncover the author of such a foretelling. When the purple dragon Spyro meets the chronicler upon the White Isle, the chronicler mentions that within his books is the capacity to see what the future might hold, at least a glimpse of it. Its telling, however, is never solid, not even for a custodian to most of history. In fact, Spyro proves as much at the twilight hour of the eternal night of darkness. However, individuals such as the fire guardian Ignitus, unlike the rest of his guardian peers, could use a device called the Pool of Visions. While the guardian used this power to see into other parts of the dragon realms, it was said, however briefly, that it could pierce the veil that is time and allow him to see into the future and what possibilities might come. Later, Ignitus himself is granted the position of chronicler, which could be tied to such an ability to gaze into moments in time. While this is an interesting fate, there is something to be mentioned. It seems like a bit of a coincidence, at least to me, that Ignitus, being the only dragon that we know of to be able to see into time, becomes the chronicler. One could perhaps draw a line between the two dragons, one being the start of a destiny that starts with the attunement to something like the Pool of Visions, and the other the end to a journey that only some could dream of having. Other dragons, stronger or wiser than Ignitus, didn't share this ability, and it's never mentioned that there are others that possess such an attunement like Ignitus. I see this being, in fact, how a chronicler is chosen. Much like the purple dragon, there might be some that are born to become the chronicler. Each one shares a common ability to see through time, to see what may come. If this is correct, then it can be implied that the chronicler as we know him was the same way. This brings us back to an age almost forgotten, spoken of rarely, when the dragons lived across the lands in abundance. I now personally believe that the prophecy was written before the coming of what we know to be the first purple dragon, Malefor. Before, I assumed it was written after, and that Malefor would have found it after the beginning of his conquest. But after talks with others, I lean toward the former theory of it being written beforehand. But I digress. The prophecy, before it was written, could have easily been the result of a dragon seeing into the future. Perhaps through a device such as the Pool of Visions even. This look into the future would have been recorded, obviously, and led to what we know as the prophecy of the purple dragon. Then, after its conception, Malefor would be discovered, the first purple dragon. If we go by the theory presented earlier, the one assuming that somehow Ignitus's ability to look into the future and that connecting him to one day being the chronicler, then it could be thought that the prophecy would have been written by whoever the chronicler was before he took the position. It is shown in depictions of Malifaux that a dragon bearing similar horns to the chronicler was present during those days, and seemed to be a scribe of sorts. In unofficial accounts, it is said that the chronicler is many years old, somewhere it being mentioned that he could be 2,000 years old by the time Spyro meets him. So, by all accounts, he most likely would have been alive during the time of the first purple dragon, or even before. If he was anything like Ignitus, able to pierce the veil ever so slightly, then perhaps there was a way that he could foresee the coming of Malifaux. But venturing further into the wild theories and headcanons of this universe's crafters, of which some of this is probably not true, but it's interesting nonetheless, we might find more wild and unforeseen possibilities. There is another individual, one entangled into the past of Ignitus, a young dragon probably about the same age as Spyro. Pyra, as he went by, was a battle squire, a banner bearer for Ignitus during the last years of Malifaux's war. But one fateful day, after a defiant last stand and subsequent rescue, the squire would be lost to the sea, presumed lost to the vastness of its waves. Though he would not meet his fate there, for another more supernatural destiny awaited him. Pyra would wash up on a chain of isles, imbued with temporal properties, giving him abilities that could perhaps conform space and time to his own will. While far-fetched, it could be likely, however little, that another individual could have found themselves with such powers. What these powers are specifically is not known to us, but perhaps they could as well see the coming of the purple dragon, and would write such things down and present it to the ruling dragons of the time, the Dragon Elders. However awesome this theory might seem, I personally subscribe to the idea that the prophecy's author would have most likely been whoever would become the chronicler. As we see directly, he might have been some sort of scribe and already was positioned near the Elders' Council. Now, what if the writing of this prophecy was after Malifaux, as my older theory stated? What then? I imagine that it could have been very much the same case. The prophecy could have been handed to the Dragon Elders around the time Malifaux's war started, or maybe even a little after, and that would have prophesied a dragon, or many dragons to come, one that would be of purple hue, and would be destined to leave their mark upon an age. Thank you to everyone who has subscribed, liked, and commented on Lore of the Dragon. Honestly, it helps me a lot, and it does put a smile on my face to see everyone interacting with the channel. Along with that, a big thank you to Abyssal Blue for the red gems, Jabby for the red and green gems, and Shaggy, Eka Restored, and Kiasu Shin for the blue gems over on Patreon. Again, thank you for that. That honestly means a lot to me that you guys would put actual money toward the channel. But until next time, I'll see you all in the next lore or speculation video. Stay safe, historians.